What did your boyfriend/girlfriend do that made you think I'm going to marry this person? My wife, then girlfriend, and I went to Chicago for AdFest in 2013. I would get strep like twice a year, finally got tonsils out in 2014, and on the last day of the festival, I caught it. We were supposed to leave on Tuesday morning, and we had Monday to explore Chicago. But I felt like complete shit and had a high fever. She took care of everything. She went to Target and got me some cheap lounge clothes, got me food, rescheduled our flight, extended our stay in our hotel room. She did it all, man. We flew from Chicago to Seattle, Seattle to Anchorage, so I had a lot of time on the flight to reflect. That kinda solidified it for me. She was so selfless and caring and knew I wanted to be with her forever. We're both military and she was supposed to leave Alaska in like 6 months. And I didn't want to risk long distance or her leaving. So we hurried up and got married like 2 weeks after the Chicago sick trip. Dated for a year and a half and this month will be our 7-year wedding anniversary. I was already in love with him and figured I'd spend my life with him. Then my sister had an aneurysm and died some weeks later. His care and compassion during that period really sealed the deal. I was sitting at her funeral with him and realized that one day one of us would have to bury the other. That was sad, but okay. It's been 14 years since then. We've been happily married for 12 and together 18 all up. We were best friends almost from the moment we met. But the specific time that sticks out was a night we spent talking and laughing on her balcony all night until the sun started coming up. Felt like I was reunited with a part of myself that I never knew was missing. Not one big moment, but several small ones during 3 years of dating. One day having a light supper, I simply asked, "Do you want to get married?" She simply answered, "Sure. I don't see myself living without you." We were having breakfast in a cafe and she took the bacon and sausages and made a bacon and sausage sandwich with a toast on the side. This is something I used to do up until my teens, but grew out of eventually. Right there and then I thought to myself, I'm gonna have to break my never getting married rule. She says, "Bless you," when my dogs sneeze. My grandmother passed away very early into me and my fiance's relationship. I'm very emotional, and he had every right to be scared off, but was nothing but supportive and caring. And when my dad got sick, I absolutely could not have handled it without my fiance's support. Knowing I could cry whenever I wanted, and he would be there to be my shoulder is the truest love I've ever felt. I had somebody ask my stepmother whether this nice boy sitting next to me at the dinner table at a wedding was her son-in-law, and I said, quite without thinking about it, "Not yet." And rather than seeming at all alarmed, my then boyfriend made a face rather like that of a newly adopted puppy which has just discovered it is not going back to the pound. And I was like, oh, well then. I'm gonna be completely honest. He said mashed potatoes is just Irish guacamole, and I knew what I had to do. Swapped out the alternator on my car in under 5 minutes. It's what he didn't and did do. He wasn't intimidated or put off by being around my special needs sibling. And after I briefly mentioned a particular food my sibling liked, he brought her some and gave it to her himself, even helping her open the package. Guys I had dated before just stared uncomfortably at her from a distance. Not a big moment, but I met my wife when I finished uni and was looking for jobs. I was completely broke. One day we planned to go out for dinner and I had 30 to my name. My petrol was on the low and stupid me thought I could pick her up, make it to the restaurant, drop her back, and make it home. Our meal came to around 46 and my petrol was on empty when we arrived at the restaurant. I remember that day I pretended I just ate and got a dessert while she had her meal. At the end of our date, I asked the waiter for the bill and he smiled back saying she's already taken care of that, she must have paid when she took a trip to the restroom. I asked her 3 years later why she paid and she replied, "I wanted to see you again. We've been together for 8 years and married for 3. Survived a 3-year long distance relationship. Insane. Respect. My granddad died when we hadn't been together for very long. My husband stayed up with me the whole night that I found out he had died and supported me and made sure I kept eating and drinking. He was one of the first people to not be disgusted by my diseases that make me bleed constantly. He pretty much said, you don't have control of that, why would I feel any different about you because of something completely out of your control? Apostrophe. My girlfriend at the time had a very sudden, very severe bout of early onset arthritis. It was bad. Her knee swelled up to 3 times its normal size and her hands were permanently curled into claws. And she was in pain. Bad pain constantly. She was bedbound, and I took all of my vacation and sick days that I could to take care of her. But eventually I had to go back to work. I remember so vividly coming home and seeing that despite her condition she was up and coming to greet me, limping, hands curled like raptor claws, and this giant beautiful smile on her face. She was just so happy to see me. Nothing else, not even the massive pain she was in, mattered. I swore I would marry her then and there. Me turns off the PS3 as she sits down on the couch next to me. Her, why'd you stop playing? Me, I figured you'd wanna watch TV or something. But I love watching you play. Also, could you show me how to play this one? It looks like a lot of fun. She wasn't a gamer before we started living together. I miss her. We were both working at a restaurant, and he was a busboy. My mom was there drinking with her friends, and was pretty much white girl wasted. My now husband went up to her and asked to take her plate. She stood up and said, no Methodica, but you can get me some Gigameister. He walked to the employee area not far from my drunken mom. I asked him if he was alright and he said, yeah, but there's some bitch over there, and points at my mom. I chuckled and replied, yeah, that's my mom. Every inch of his exposed skin flushed, and he started stammering. I realized he liked me and offered my number so he wouldn't feel so bad. We've been married 14 years. When I explained my view of marriage and how I expected to be loved and respected, and he agreed 100%, explaining it back to me in such a way that convinced me he believed the same, and that he truly listened to me and respected my mind and values. I started crying and was sure from that moment on. 3 years later we got married. 5 years after that and has exceeded every expectation. I had a dream of what marriage could be, but what it really is for me far exceeds what I had hoped. This isn't the thing. My partner and I have long story between us. Not married, but we are weathering the COVID storm together in a 1-bedroom apartment, and will probably tie the knot once the pandemic is a year or 2 behind us. Anyways, we got a wok after wanting one for the longest time. My better half made fried rice yesterday. I got Facebook ads for engagement rings later in the evening. How the duck did they know? He was humming as we were taking a walk together. Then he said, if I'm ever so lucky as to get to live with you, you'll find that I sing in the shower. The presumptuousness of the comment made me laugh and fall in love. Nothing he does intentionally, but he often has nightmares. He had a tough childhood and suffers from mental health problems. Whenever he has those nightmares, he's freaking out while being asleep. He screams. He kicks. He's out of control. Then I gently put my hand on his head, his hand on his back, and he immediately calms down. His breath slows down, and he stops screaming, etc. I know this is not about me, and I know he's not doing it intentionally, but this is a very special feeling. And he manages to make me feel like this every day. I'm very complicated. I also have some psychological issues and a very ducked up relationship with my mum. He's there. He talks to me, listens, and whenever I need it, he gently puts his hand on my head, my hand or my back. I can't describe how he does it, but he's home for me. While having a really bad episode of OCD related panic attacks, I started apologizing profusely because we had only been dating a few weeks and I didn't want to scare her away. She just held my head and said, it's okay. This is just us. I could have never in a million years come up with a more comforting, supportive, and calming response. I knew then. when we were in college. She pulled some nunchucks from her closet and proceeded to play with them, Brad Pitt and Fight Club style, for about 20 minutes while I sat on her bed. We hadn't hooked up yet at that point, but I knew it was meant to be. That was in 2003. We've been together since shortly after that. She would wait for me outside of my work before we started dating without me knowing, so I could run into her and leave my favorite soda at my front door. She made the move to propose on the same day I would. My dog instantly liked him. He is bald and has a beard. My dog historically didn't like men in general, but especially bald men with beards. My dog liked him the first time she met him. On our second date, it made me decide that he was someone I would want to be serious with. We've been married for 7 years and have a 3-year-old daughter. My dog made the right choice. While we were dating, I got really sick. My body looked, felt, and smelled horrible. Sickly sweet smell. I was in and out of hospitals trying to figure out what it was, and that whole time he never left. I told him during that I wouldn't blame him for leaving, since I looked horrible, and instead of doing fun stuff, all I did was go back and forth between my bed and the hospital. It was definitely not what he signed up for, but he took my face in his hands and said, "You're beautiful." He looked me in the eyes, then kissed my forehead. He's done many more things, but that one was the first real time I was like, I need him to be my rock. I love this man. That whole ordeal lasted 3 long years. We've been married 4 years now. He's definitely been my rock through some really hard times since then, and I'm grateful for him. In profound depth, and after series of hanging out with guys who claimed they wanted to learn ASL and dump me like hot potato after the novelty wears off, usually in a couple of weeks, my then chemistry lab partner took ASL course without me knowing it. One night we got really drunk together. He really signed without any inhibition. We are now married for 14 years and counting, with an adorable toddler. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.